Hello everybody and welcome to my video. My name is Iraj and I am a student of Masters in Linguistics. So the purpose of making this video and this presentation is because it is a part of my project. So the topic that I have been assigned is prepositions, and in this video I will be covering 4 sections. The first one is going to be the grammar explanation. Second is going to be some English language learner errors. The third is going to be its comparison with other languages. And in my video, I have compared it with my native language, which is Urdu. And then I will give you some ideas for teaching. So let's start this presentation. As you all can see that my topic is prepositions. So I will move forward to its grammar explanation. Okay, so a preposition is a word that shows the relationship between a noun or a pronoun and the rest of the words in the sentence. Now, these are very small words, but they are difficult to acquire because of the many complexities. That's why it takes a lot of time for English language learners to master prepositions. They often give us information about place, time, and direction. Now, if I talk about place, I have given some examples here. The Holy Quran is kept on the table. So it tells us the place where the Holy Quran is kept. It is on the table. It is not beside the table. It is not under the table. It is on the table. So the relationship between the Holy Quran and the table is being given to you by a preposition on. Similarly, if we talk about time, we all have to gather for the women's rights movement tomorrow at 12 p.m. It tells you the time at which all of us have to gather for the women's rights movement. Then we have direction. My friends and I went to the ED Foundation to donate clothes for the children. So these are the three parts. These are the three, I would say, ways in which prepositions give us information. The first one is place, second is time, and the third one is direction. Now we will move forward to prepositional phrases. So what is a prepositional phrase? It is a combination of a preposition and its object, and the object can include a noun or a pronoun and any modifiers such as articles or adjectives. Now, one area of prepositional phrases that confuses English language learners is where these prepositional phrases are located in a sentence. Because they can occur in the beginning, they can come in the middle, and they can also come at the end of a sentence. If we use a prepositional phrase in the beginning, I have given you one example. In Pakistan, the mango production has fallen by 50% due to heat wave and water shortage. Now, in this sentence, the prepositional phrase is coming in the beginning. If I use this very same prepositional phrase in the middle, I have one example. The literacy rate in Pakistan remains stagnant at 60%. And then the very same prepositional phrase, if I use it at the ending of a sentence, I have an example. Divorce ratio sees an increase every year in Pakistan. So a prepositional phrase can come in the beginning, it can also come in the middle and at the end of a sentence. And one thing that you always have to remember is that a prepositional phrase always begins with a preposition. Now, when a sentence has both a prepositional phrase of place and time, we put the place phrase before the time phrase. For example, the coronavirus was confirmed to have reached in February 2020 in Pakistan. This is wrong because in this sentence, the time phrase in February 2020 is coming before the place phrase, which is in Pakistan. And the correct form is going to be, the coronavirus was confirmed to have reached in Pakistan in February 2020. Because remember, the place phrase always comes before the time phrase when we have both of these phrases in one sentence. All right. Now, when we have two prepositional phrases of place or two prepositional phrases of time in the same sentence, we arrange them from smaller to larger. For example, the holy books are kept in the box, on the shelf, in the prayer room. You see how they are arranged from smaller to larger. Similarly, if we talk about time, the PTI Jalsa is at 9 p.m. on Saturday. First, we come to the hour at which the PTI Jalsa is going to be held, and then we talk about the day. So this is how we arrange them from smaller to larger units. Let's move forward to the other slide. All right. Now there are three categories of prepositions. One-word prepositions, two-word prepositions, and three-word prepositions. So I have given you some examples. I will not go in detail. I will move forward. Okay, now how do we use at, on, and in for place and time? So this is how we arrange them from smaller to bigger. When we talk about place, we first use at a smaller level, on at a bigger level, and in at the biggest level. For example, at McDonald's on Muscat Street in Karachi in Pakistan. And if we talk about time, at 3 p.m. on Friday in June in 2022. So at, on, and in, this is how we use them from smaller to bigger. Now I will move forward to the next slide. Okay, now you all know that there are many common prepositions, but there are some problem prepositions too. There are some pairs of prepositions that cause confusion to English language learners, and I will be explaining you some of these problem prepositions. There are many pairs, but I will be just giving you details of the following ones. The first one is for versus since. So we use for to answer the period of time, whereas we use since to answer the question of when the action began and for how long. For example, I have been working as a teacher for 3 years. It tells you about how long I have been working as a teacher. But if I have to use since in the sentence, I will be giving you one example. I have worked as a teacher since 2018. Now, since is used here and it tells us for how long, but the action when it began is also mentioned here. So remember that both for and since tells us how long, but when we use since, when the action began, that part is always mentioned. But in for, when the action began is not mentioned. Okay, now similarly, there is one other pair of problem preposition, which is before versus ago, and we use before and ago for past time. We use before to answer the question, when did something happen? And we use ago to answer the question, how long in the past did something happen for? For example, I went for the renewal of my NIC before 1 p.m. It tells you when did I go? I went before 1 p.m. Now, the second one is, I went for the renewal of my NIC 2 days ago. How long in the past did I go for the renewal of my NIC? 2 days ago. So these are the examples of before and ago. The next pair is in versus after for future use. We use in to answer the question, when will something happen? And we use after to answer when specifically when something will something happen. So when I say when specifically will something happen, it means that the sentence will give you some extra information. Example, the petrol price will increase in 2 days. So it tells you when will something happen, when will the petrol price increase? It will increase in 2 days. The petrol price will increase after the government announces. So after is used here because it tells you specifically when the petrol price is going to be increased. It will be increased just right after the government announces. So it gives you a little more specific and extra information about the increasing situation of petrol prices. The next such pair is for versus during. So we use for to answer the question how long, whereas we use during to answer the question when. And I have some examples. Number one is I waited in the queue for 2 hours to get my mark sheet forms. So it tells you for how long were you standing in the queue? For 2 hours. And then the second example is the interviewers asked about my hobbies during the interview. During is used here because it tells you when did the interviewers asked about my hobbies? During the interview. Okay. Now the next is verbs of motion. Now there are some prepositions that need to come before after some verbs of motion. Number one is enter. After enter, we never use any preposition in a sentence. For example, we must not enter the classroom without the teacher's permission. After enter, when enter is used as a verb, we do not put any preposition. The second is to is always followed by the preposition go. So my family is going to the beach this weekend to beat the heat. All right. So this is how we always use to after go. The third one is return to. My friend finally returned to her home after she was kidnapped. So these are the three verbs of motion, after which I have just explained what prepositions you are supposed to use. All right. Now, there are some nouns, adjectives, and verbs that must be followed by a certain preposition. And different prepositions are to be followed by different adjectives, different nouns, and verbs. So some of the adjective plus preposition combinations are listed below. Number one is annoyed by, committed to, confused about, concerned about, different from, dedicated to. So these are some of the adjective plus preposition pairs that I have just listed and I have explained. The second is there are some nouns plus preposition combinations too. And some of them are answer to, demand for, example of, question about, problem with, and advantage of. And then there are very myriads of nouns plus preposition combinations too, some of which are mentioned here as well. You can just go through them. Now we will move forward to verbs plus preposition combinations. Belong to, complain about, argue about, speak about, listen to, study for. These are all verbs plus preposition combinations. And then there are other verb plus preposition combinations too. You can go through them. All right, now we move forward to the second section of my video, which I mentioned in the very beginning. Common English language learner mistakes. So number one mistake that most of the ELLs make is that using correct prepositions for word combinations. The wrong version, I have given you one example. The teacher complained the bad habits of the child to the parents. Now this is wrong because after complaint, there is no preposition. Now, the second mistake that some English language learners make is that they put wrong prepositions. They use wrong prepositions. The teacher complained of the bad habits of the child to the parents. This is wrong because the preposition of used here is not correct. So the correct form is going to be the teacher complained about the bad habits of the child to the parents. So this is one area of mistakes that English language learners make, that they sometimes they do not use any preposition, which is wrong. Sometimes they use wrong prepositions, which is also wrong. So they need to make sure that the prepositions which they are using in their conversations, in their sentences, they need to be correct. Now, the second mistake is that the verb must end in ing if you use it after a preposition. And such verbs are also known as gerunds. After preposition, if you are using any verb, they need to be in the ing form. For example, a wrong version is going to be, my aunt is concerned about get her daughter married because of this societal pressure. Now, this is wrong because after the preposition about, what we need to do is we need to use the ing form of the verb get. Therefore, the correct version is going to be, my aunt is concerned about getting her daughter married because of the societal pressure. The third mistake is, one of the commonly made mistakes is using for too often. Now, I do not know why, but even in our Pakistani context and as English language learners, we also sometimes, we often in fact use for in many sentences, which is wrong. We are unhappy for the new implementations made by the Pakistani government. This is a wrong statement because the correct form is going to be, we are unhappy about the new implementations made by the Pakistani government. So this is one area that we all really need to work on, and especially English language learners, they need to learn to use correct prepositions rather than just using for too often. Okay, now I come to the third section of my presentation, which is native language interference. Now, I have used my native language, which is Urdu, as a comparison to English. The difference between English and Urdu prepositions is that of the sentence structure. In Urdu, we use post prepositions. I have some examples. Let's move forward to them. We are with Imran Khan. Now, we is a subject and Imran Khan here is an object. But in Urdu, we would say, Hum Imran Khan ke saath hain. So the object and the subject, they both come before the preposition in Urdu. So there is a difference of the sentence structure. In Urdu, we use post prepositions. Post prepositions means that they come after the object. But in English, the prepositions come before the object. We are with Imran Khan. With is a preposition. Imran Khan is the object. Hum Imran Khan ke saath hai. Imran Khan is the object. And after the object, we have used ke saath hai, which is ke saath is a preposition used in Urdu. Similarly, all the students are in the classroom. Sare talib in class ke andar hain. So you see how there is a difference of sentence structure in English and in Urdu. Now, I have some ideas for teaching. We will discuss some ideas for teaching at a beginner level, then we will discuss it at the intermediate level, and then at the advanced level. All right, now prepositions take a lot of time to learn because there are complexities, because there are many complexities in the usage, in the way they are used, and there are different explanations as well. So there are prepositions that indicate meaning, such as place and time, but then there are also prepositions that have more of a grammatical function rather than semantic. For example, interested in a topic. Now, we do not see any place or time performing as any function in this phrase, but there is rather a semantic function used here. Interested in a topic. All right. Because prepositions are difficult to acquire, English language learners need activities that allow them to see and hear the various ways in which prepositions are used. For example, at beginning level, teach prepositions with concrete meanings. Now, concrete meanings mean that prepositions used in its physical form, so that students can see them, students can hear you, and they can see what you are doing. They can create a concrete meaning out of it. For this, you can bring an object to the class and ask about its different placement. For example, what you can do is you can bring a ball to a classroom, to your class, and you can place it on top of your table. You can ask them, as they all can see it concretely, they can see the object physically. You can ask them where the ball is kept. It is kept on the table. Then you place that ball under the table, and then you ask them where is the ball. They will tell you it is under the table. You keep it beside the table and you ask the placement. They will say beside the table. So this is how you can bring any object to the class and ask them about its placement. So this is how at a beginning level students learn to acquire simple prepositions. And what you can do is you can also write down their answers on the blackboard so that they can also see and they can also hear the answers. So this is how they are going to learn it at a beginning level. Now, at intermediate level, you need to deal with confusing pairs of prepositions. These confusing pairs of prepositions include for versus since, for versus during, which I just explained, in versus after, since versus for. So these are the confusing pairs of prepositions that you can deal with at an intermediate level. Now, now at upper intermediate, students are exposed to verbs, adjectives, and nouns that combine with certain prepositions, and they study special units of meanings. These special units of meanings include, like, on the other hand, phrases like fall in love with someone. Okay. They also learn to use gerunds after prepositions. So at upper intermediate level, what you can do is you can teach them verbs and preposition combinations, adjectives plus preposition combinations, and nouns plus preposition combinations. And then you can also teach them how you use gerunds after prepositions. Now, at advanced level, English language learners learn new vocabulary that often require certain prepositions. For example, once an advanced learner learns the word relevant, they need to learn that it is followed by the preposition to if there are additional words after relevant. So relevant to, and then there are many other words after which prepositions are used. All right, so this was my presentation on the grammar topic prepositions. I hope you all learned something today. You all came to know about its grammar explanation, how English language learners make errors using prepositions. Then I also discussed some of its comparison with our native language Urdu, and I also gave you some teaching ideas. So I hope you all enjoyed my prepositions presentation. Thank you all for watching. Bye-bye. Allah Hafiz.